How did the Battle of Blue Waters 1362 mark the decisive moment for Lithuanian expansion into the Pontic Steppe? This confrontation begins as Grand Duke Algirdas leads a host of armored knights and infantry toward the southern Bug. The Mongol commanders expect a standard forest raid. Instead, they face a calculated campaign of permanent conquest. This movement south shifts the regional balance of power, turning the vast grasslands into a testing ground for new military technologies. Why was the Golden Horde vulnerable in the autumn of 1362? The Empire of the Steppes is currently hollowed out by the demographic shock of the Black Death and the political anarchy of the Great Troubles. Internal collapse has fractured the once unified authority in Sarai, leaving regional governors like the three Tatar beys to defend the western frontiers alone. This fragmentation creates a strategic vacuum that Algirdas is determined to fill. This internal rot invites the northern forest dwellers into the open plains. What did Grand Duke Algirdas see when he looked toward the horizon? He envisions a state that stretches from the Baltic to the Black Sea, a multi-ethnic empire protected by a unique dual monarchy. While his brother Kęstutis guards the western borders against the Teutonic Knights, Algirdas serves as the sword in the east, absorbing the fragmented lands of former Kievan Rus. He treats the campaign as a long game of economic integration. This pragmatic ambition transforms a tribal duchy into a burgeoning European superpower. How did the Lithuanians prepare their path through the wild fields? Before marching toward the Syniukha River, Algirdas methodically clears his flanks by capturing the territories of Chernigov and the capital of Bryansk. His forces strike the fortress of Concave, successfully severing communication lines between the Crimean Ulus and the central administrative hubs of the Horde. This isolation ensures the Tatar beys must fight without imperial reinforcements. These surgical strikes secure the rear and commit the army to the southern grasslands. Why was the timing of the autumn march critical for the Lithuanian heavy cavalry? The summer heat has faded, and the river levels are at their lowest point, making fords easier to navigate for men-at-arms and supply wagons. Logistics dictate the pace as river barges transport equipment through the forest steppe zones before the onset of winter rains. Algirdas relies on his scouts to find forage in the borderlands, sustaining his war machine in a landscape traditionally dominated by nomads. This careful scheduling avoids the logistical disasters of previous campaigns. What rituals did the pagan warriors perform to secure the favor of Perkunas? Before the Council of War, soldiers sacrifice an ox and consult diviners who inspect wood chips or listen to the sound of birds. A horse is led over a spear laid on the ground. Its stride determines the success of the expedition. These ancient Baltic customs provide a psychological anchor for the forest soldiers as they move into the alien territory of the steppe. This spiritual certainty hardens the resolve of the infantry for the coming collision. How would the mechanical crossbow overcome the rapid fire of the Tatar composite bow? Algirdas has adapted Western technologies encountered during his wars with the Teutonic Order, introducing a high-velocity weapon that levels the playing field. These crossbows fire bolts at speeds reaching 350 feet per second, providing the kinetic energy needed to penetrate leather and lamellar armor. Unlike the manual bow, this weapon allows for precise aiming even under the pressure of a horse archer charge. This technological edge replaces traditional archery with a disciplined mechanical barrage. How did the Lithuanians maintain a continuous rate of fire against the steppe warriors? The secret lies in a sophisticated rotation system where every active shooter is supported by two loaders equipped with mechanical winches. These assistants crank the heavy winches, known as a windlass, to overcome draw weights that can reach 1,000 pounds. This coordination ensures that the slow reloading time of the crossbow does not leave the line vulnerable. This logistical efficiency creates an unbroken wall of steel bolts that negates the Mongols' mobility. Where did the infantry find cover on the open grasslands of the southern Bug? They deploy the pavis, a large rectangular shield made of glued wooden planks and covered in gesso and linen. By planting these stationary walls in the ground with specialized spikes, the Lithuanians create a mobile fortress that absorbs the impact of arrows. The prominent central ridge of the shield deflects projectiles, allowing the reloaders to work with near impunity against light cavalry harassment. This defensive wall turns the open steppe into a fortified battle line. What did the landscape near Torhovytsia offer the advancing army? The high defensible banks of the Syniukha River create a strategic nexus that limits the Tatars' ability to perform wide-sweeping flanking maneuvers. Algirdas chooses this site, known as the Battle of Blue Waters 1362, to force the nomads into a localized engagement on his own terms. The terrain acts as a bottleneck, funneling the horde's light cavalry toward the center. This selection of the battlefield ensures that the steppe model cannot exploit its greatest advantage. How did the three Tatar beys, Kutlubugha, Hadji-bey, and Dimitri, respond to the invasion? They gather a regional militia of seasoned horsemen, believing they can break the Lithuanian ranks with traditional hit-and-run tactics and feigned retreats. Arrogance clouds their judgment, as they have seen 100 forest raids fail in the open sun of the plains. They expect the Lithuanians to panic once the clouds of arrows darken the sky. Their overconfidence leads them to commit their entire center to a direct, head-on charge. What revolutionary geometry did Algirdas use to trap the horse archer screen? He arranges his host into 6 compact groups, forming a concave half-circle, a formation designed to prevent the usual encirclement. By curving the wings forward, any attempt by the Tatars to attack one division brings them into the crossfire of the adjacent units. The formation is deep and disciplined, with Ruthenian pikemen anchoring the gaps between the crossbowmen. This defensive arc effectively turns the attackers into the targets of a multi-directional mechanical barrage. How did the atmosphere on the field change as the two armies finally closed the distance? The air is thick with the characteristic Mongol screams and the thundering of hooves, intended to break the morale of conventional European levies. In stark contrast, the Lithuanian line remains eerily still, a silent wall of wood and steel that absorbs the psychological noise without breaking rank. The only sound from the forest dwellers is the rhythmic clink of the windlass and the mechanical groans of the loaders. This disciplined silence unnerves the attackers and signals a new type of warfare. What happened when the thousands of Tatar riders loosed their first intense volley? The sky is obscured by a cloud of arrows that thuds into the pavers' shields, yet the Lithuanian formation refuses to buckle or charge forward. They wait for the Mongol center to commit fully to the assault, absorbing the barrage while the loaders finish their final preparations. This calculated stoicism frustrates the horse archers and forces the beys to push their cavalry into a lethal range. How did the Battle of Blue Waters 1362 reach its catastrophic turning point? At a sharp signal from Algirdas, the infantry releases a counter-volley of high-velocity bolts that tears through the front lines of the horde. Unlike the arrows of the steppe, these bolts unhorse the riders instantly, creating a chaotic pile of wounded men and animals that stalls the subsequent waves. The sudden mechanical roar replaces the silence and shatters the momentum of the Tatar assault. This initial barrage turns the Mongol charge into a frantic struggle for survival. Why did the Tatar formation buckle under the pressure of the crossbow bolts? The superior penetration of the bolts makes the traditional leather and lamellar armor of the riders obsolete at close range. As the front line collapses into a mass of carnage, the center of the horde's army becomes a choke point of disorganized cavalry. Algirdas observes the confusion and recognizes that the opportunity for a counterstrike has arrived. This mechanical devastation creates a natural barrier that allows the Lithuanian heavy cavalry to prepare their final sweep. How did the Koriatovychi nephews deliver the final blow to the disorganized flanks? The four brothers lead the Lithuanian and Ruthenian heavy cavalry into the gaps created by the crossbow barrage, closing the semicircle like a giant vice. Armored knights with pikes and spears charge into the mass of horsemen, who find themselves trapped between the riverbanks and the advancing wall of infantry. The concave geometry ensures that the Tatars have no room to retreat or maneuver. This coordinated charge collapses the wings and turns the battle into a slaughter. What remained of the Golden Horde's western army as the sun began to set? The banks of the Syniukha are choked with the remnants of the defeated beys. Kutlubugha and Hadji-bey are killed on the field. while Dimitri vanishes into the depths of the steppe. The killing field is a testament to the success of the forest model over the steppe model in open combat. This total rout marks the end of Mongol hegemony in the region and secures the Principality of Kiev. This victory establishes the Grand Duchy of Lithuania as the new master of the grasslands. How did Algirdas transform a military victory into a stable regional administration? He establishes a pragmatic condominium, a system of shared sovereignty where the local inhabitants pay tribute to the Horde while being ruled by Lithuanian dukes. This arrangement provides a vital buffer, allowing the region to stabilize without triggering a massive retaliatory expedition from the central Khanate. He leaves his son Vladimir in Kiev to reconsolidate power and invites Mongol tribes to settle as Lipka Tatars. This administrative flexibility creates the foundations for a durable, multi-ethnic empire. Why does the campaign of 1362 still resonate across the map of Europe today? Lithuania becomes a direct rival of the Grand Duchy of Moscow, a competition that will dominate for centuries. The victory paves the way for the Union of Kruo and the rise of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This geographic shift fundamentally reorders the architecture of power in Eastern Europe. That deeper struggle with the papacy, the rise of the Teutonic Order, and the complex internal politics of the Golden Horde will be the subject of another episode. Which next episode should we explore? If this deep dive into the Battle of Blue Waters 1362 helped you understand the birth of an empire, subscribe using the QR code visible on your screen and continue the series.